What is going on, guys? This is Epic Spawn the Hunted here, and today I'm finally bringing you Act 2 for the pets on Dungeon Defenders Awakened. I planned on getting this video out sooner, but these levels were a lot harder, and I had never done these before, so I had to figure them out on my own. I did not, go to the custom servers and, steal someone else's build. I figured this out on my own, so maybe it was just hard for me, but this was really hard. So don't even try this solo if you're not level 50 to 60, probably more like 60 to 70. And yeah, my gear still isn't all that great. I've been farming for pets instead of legendaries, so maybe my gear just isn't up to par. But yeah, this was extremely hard for me. And none of these pets are as good as Mr. Mine or the Propeller Cat. So definitely get those first. These are not worth it. You know, get them once or twice because they do look cool. But I say the only one that might be worth it, the one that seemed the best out of the four, is the yellow Ramster you get from the throne room. But we'll get to that later. And just like in Act 1, it is super important to focus the ogres down. Either DPS it or tank it as the squire. You have to help with the ogres or you're just not gonna survive. It's not... for the most part, other than the assassins gave me a lot of trouble in Act 2 for some reason. The assassins were really hard to take down and deal with that first for me. So, the ogres and then the assassins. Other than that, just, you know, you could almost leave it to itself, just constantly spam repair. So first we have Tornado Valley, and this is where you get the little wizard. Now, some of these you can see the build from the gameplay, obviously, but I try to get a still image to explain what is going on. Now for the Tornado Valley, my still image isn't 100% accurate to what I did because I changed it. But right in front of my character, to the right where I have that one turret, I actually have two there in the final build, and then I have a slice and dice barricade up by the inside crystal. And other than that, it's pretty much the same. I have poison gas traps, well, one trap down in the bottom platform in between the crystals, just because it was a big area and all I had were those turrets, so I wanted to keep them in that area. And I had the extra space. And I wanted to talk about this. I got called out for not using any of the Huntress stuff, and I'm not really impressed with the Huntress, and I don't like using it all that much. And my gear on my Huntress is really, really bad, but I try to use it a little bit more in Act 2. So yeah, this was obviously pretty much purely a Squire build. I even DPS'd on my Squire, I believe, and this was an easier level. And so, at Wave 15, you get the little wizard, which will shoot a projectile that will cause a random elemental effect. Again, it looks cool, and you can roll, and if it rolls a 60, it might be pretty good. I think mine was level 14, and it doesn't do much. I'm not that impressed with it. And ogres don't even spawn on this map, so you don't even have to worry about ogres. Just worry about keeping the barricades up and keeping the assassins at bay, and this is a pretty easy level. Next we have the Tornado yes, the Highlands. I keep having to look up the names because I forget. This one I went with the apprentice build that I did almost the entire first act, with the Squire barricade, the Deadly Strike Tower, and Fire Blast Towers. And then the ogres only come from the wooden bridges on the far side, across where I'm looking on this still image. You'll see it in the gameplay, but I really beefed it up with Deadly Strike, Magic Missile, and Fire Blast. And I also have a poison trap. And at each of the barricades, instead of using the Strength Drain aura, I am using the Ethereal Trap, because it actually uses less space than the strength drain, so you can get more stuff in. And as long I have almost all the points into health, so they could last a long time without having to be repaired constantly. So yeah, I tried a couple different builds. I tried to be a little more Huntress heavy on this map, and I just couldn't do it. I tried really hard to do something different on this map, but this was the build I was successful with. That's the build I got the pet with, and that's what this video is about, right? Getting the pet. You know, if you know your gear is good, you're high level, and you can figure it out, good for you. But this is what I'm showing you. This is what I did. The Apprentice is really strong. The Squire is also really strong. I just couldn't find a way for it to work for whatever reason. Now, on this level, you get the Aetherian. Now, the Aetherian does a similar effect to the Steam Robot. With the Aetherian, it causes knockback with every strike. The Steam Robot will sometimes cause a burst that gives AoE knockback. The Aetherian causes knockback with every hit. Again, mine didn't roll very high. Not, too important of an effect. Not worth it, in my opinion, but it looks cool. I'll give it that. And like I said, the ogres only spawn on the far end on those bridges, so that's where I beefed up my towers, and that's where I focused. Just spam repair, help with the ogre, and you shouldn't have much of a problem on this level either. Next, we have the summit. I have two images here. These explanations are a little harder and a little harder to organize, just because there's a lot more room for defenses and there's a lot more space to cover. So for this one, actually, the ogre wasn't that big of an issue the way I set it up, because the range of the Deadly Strike towers is so far. They only spawn on the bottom. Actually, that's not true. They spawn on the bottom bridge and up to the right, next to where the ballista is. You'll see it in the gameplay. So when they started spawning up on the top, I think it was around wave 7, somewhere around there, I think. Don't quote me. So when they started spawning there, I did beef up and add another Deadly Strike tower to help with that. But the ogres were not even the main worry. The wyverns spawn in 3 different locations, I believe, maybe 4 even. So I really made sure I had obviously the Fire Blast to deal with the big small crowds. I had the ethereal traps to get rid of their fire element resistance, and I had Deadly Strike towers and crossfire, so that they would hit the ogre and someone would be hitting the wyverns. So I made sure every spawn was covered with a Deadly Strike, and then some other tower to help it out, whether it was a Magic Missile or a Fire Blast, just something to help it out. And really make sure you keep up with the upgrades, because on wave 14, at the end of it, my crystal was almost destroyed, and it was the wyverns. So be very careful. And for the barricades, I just used the Squire Spike barricades because they do damage, they have a ton of health, easy, practical. Obviously, key repairs with the ogre. The ogres hardly gave me any problems. The ogres were not a worry on this map at all. It was the wyverns. Keep an eye on the wyverns. That is the key to completing this level. And on this level, you get the genie. The genie gives you mana as you damage enemies, and it does not mean the currency mana used to upgrade and build towers. It means the ability mana. So like on the Squire, the little whirlwind attack or the rage, you would be getting mana as you struck the enemies. So this one is a bit better if you focus more on DPSing with your hero. So this might be pretty good with comboed with the Squire's rage, or the I think the Huntress has an ability that makes her shoot farther or faster or something like that. I don't play the Huntress if that's not obvious. But yeah, this might actually be a pretty decent pet. Now the last level, the throne room, can go F itself. This level was a bitch. Excuse my language, but my god, I hated it. I could not figure this level out. I tried it multiple times, and I would always fail on wave 7 because I could not figure out what to do about the ogres that spawn on the upper levels. So, at first, on wave 4, I believe they spawn in the center where the staircases are, to the side. And that's pretty easy to deal with. But I could not figure out what to do about the ogres that would spawn on top and to the side. So, what I ended up doing was, I have a Deadly Strike Tower and a Fire Blast down in the center staircase, a bit further back with the spike barricades a little bit forward, so the ogre wasn't hitting the towers nearly as much. That's super important because a lot of stuff gets on that barricade when the ogres spawn, and my first couple attempts, my turrets would get attacked along with the barricades. They wouldn't last, and I would lose. So I have 2 down there, and then I have 1 on top to the side behind. I have a Fire Blast and a Deadly Strike behind a spike barricade, so it can shoot down to the center and to the side. And only 1 ogre would spawn at a time on the top side, so it dealt with it fine. I just really made sure I upgraded the spike barricade so that it would not break, and they were far enough back to they weren't taking hardly any damage. That was easy to deal with. And then to the center, I have the 1 spike barricade. I don't have a still image of this, I don't think. There's 1 spike barricade along with a strength drain orb and a Fire Blast and 2 magic missiles. The magic missiles were more for archers and necromancers because they would get stuck on the side shooting at the barricade, and the 1 Fire Blast didn't have a wide enough range to take care of those. So I put the magic missiles there to deal with those and to put extra firepower toward the ogres. Now the ogres that go to the center, they took a lot longer to defeat, obviously, because I did not have a Deadly Strike Tower pointing toward the center. But with just a little bit of repairs, a little bit of focused attack, they go down. They are not that big of a threat to that barricade, just because my barricades, when near full upgrade, have like 40,000 hit points. So just make sure you keep an eye on it, because this one, the ogres were a huge problem. And on the throne room, you get the yellow Ramster, which is obviously a play on Red Bull. This one seemed interesting, and I might try to get a better one of these pets. So this one would occasionally up your defense rate, which is how fast your towers attack, and then would slow back down because of a sugar crash. So obviously not as good as Mr. Mine, because Mr. Mine like ups all the stats, but I mean, this might be fun to use on like an off character you're only using for like towers or something like that, just for something different, and it's a fun name. And there you go, guys. That is all 4 pets on Act 2. I hope this video was helpful. I know it's starting to get a bit harder to explain because there's so much going on and there's so much more room to cover. And I didn't even mention, I'm so sorry, in the 3rd level, the summit, I'm using ethereal traps because they cost less. But in the throne room, I used strength drain to cover both at the same time, and I did not worry about covering the opposite side because they just walked toward the front center. I should have explained that when I was going into the 4th level. I apologize, but I used strength drain to cover 2 lanes, and instead of using traps on both lanes. Okay, so now that I covered that, that is the end of the video. Like I said, farm Mr. Mine, farm the Propeller Cat. I actually don't know what pets are in the 3rd act except the dragon on the summit. But yeah, so that's my next assignment, is to complete Act 3. I'm not looking forward to it. But I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope the video was helpful. If you did not see my video on Act 1, go ahead and check that out. And I also have a playthrough of all the levels. And I will be uploading videos on the new content that they'll be adding, bonus maps, harder difficulties. So make sure to subscribe to keep up with the content. And I want to bid you all a good day. And just in case I don't see you later, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Bye.